Are Christine and Janelle Brown sitting on explosive secrets that could destroy their sister wives' paychecks? Because rumor has it these two so-called truth-telling moms might be keeping their mouths shut about devastating details involving Meri Brown, all to protect their TLC money train. And honestly, the more you look at the evidence, the more suspicious this whole situation becomes. Let's talk about what just went down. Mykelti Brown Padron sat down for an interview with Pops Psych, and the conversation took a dark turn when the topic of Meri came up. For years now, we've been hearing these vague, ominous accusations about Meri's behavior when she was raising Kody's kids. We're talking cryptic statements about life-threatening situations, whispers about extreme mistreatment, and the absolutely chilling suggestion that Robyn Brown swooped in and literally saved children's lives. Saved their lives. Let that sink in for a second, but here's where things get interesting. Despite all this dramatic language, despite all the haunting implications, nobody in this family will actually tell us what happened. Mykelti herself said on her Patreon that she's not getting into specifics. Padron Brown dropped the bombshell claim that he can't share details because it might get the show canceled. Madison has ranted about Meri on social media, but always stops short of giving us the full story. And Christine and Janelle, the two moms who've positioned themselves as the brave truth-tellers who escaped Kody's toxic world, suddenly become incredibly vague when it comes to backing up these serious accusations against Meri. So what's really going on here? Are Christine and Janelle protecting their children by letting them control their own narratives? Or are they protecting something else entirely? Their reality television contracts, their income, their comfortable post-Kody lifestyles that depend on sister wives continuing to air season after season. Because let's be brutally honest about the financial reality at play. Sister Wives isn't just a show for Christine and Janelle anymore, it's their primary source of income. It's what's funding Christine's new life with David Woolley. It's what's keeping Janelle comfortable in her RV lifestyle. And if truly horrific details about child mistreatment came out, details so disturbing they involved life-threatening situations, TLC would have no choice but to cancel the show. The network can't keep airing a family program if it turns out serious child endangerment was happening behind the scenes and the mothers knew about it but stayed quiet. The accusations against Meri have been floating around for years, getting darker and more serious with each passing season. But the receipts? They're nowhere to be found, and that raises a massive question that needs to be asked. Are Christine and Janelle coaching their adult children to keep the most damaging details hidden? Are they prioritizing their TLC paychecks over transparency and justice? Because if the truth would cancel the show, maybe the show deserves to be canceled. Let's break down exactly how long this pattern of vague accusations has been going on, because it didn't just start with the Pops Psych interview. This has been building for years, and the family keeps dropping these ominous hints without ever backing them up with actual facts. Madison Brown was one of the first to publicly go after Meri on social media. She went on a Twitter rant about her throwing shade and making it clear there was serious bad blood between them. Then more recently, she described Meri as hard to live with in her Instagram stories. Hard to live with. That's the kind of phrase you use for a roommate who leaves dishes in the sink, not someone who supposedly created life-threatening situations for children. Then we have Padron Brown, who did that interview with John Yates and dropped an absolute bombshell. He said he couldn't disclose specifics about what Meri did because revealing the details could get sister wives canceled. But in the same breath, he credited Robyn with probably having saved some of the kids' lives. Saved their lives from what? Exactly. He won't say. He can't say. Or more accurately, he's choosing not to say. When it came out that Mykelti had the worst relationship with Meri out of all the kids, she made a statement on her Patreon making it crystal clear she was never going to have a relationship with Meri again. But she also said she wasn't going to get into specifics. Just another vague declaration that something terrible happened but no actual information about what that terrible thing was. This pattern is incredibly frustrating for anyone trying to understand what actually went down in that family. The Browns keep using this intense dramatic language, life-threatening, show canceling, kids needing to be saved. These are serious, heavy accusations that suggest extreme abuse or neglect. When you tell people that children's lives were in danger, their minds immediately go to the worst possible scenarios. Physical violence, severe neglect, psychological torture, the kind of stuff that would absolutely warrant criminal investigations. But then when you ask for details, suddenly everyone clams up. It's all whispers and insinuations and cryptic social media posts. The family keeps painting this picture of Meri as someone who put children in mortal danger, but they won't actually show us the picture. They're asking viewers to just trust them, to fill in the blanks with our own imaginations, to assume the worst about Meri based on their word alone. And here's the thing, when When you make accusations this serious without providing evidence, you're essentially asking people to convict someone in the court of public opinion without a trial. Meri's reputation has been absolutely destroyed by these claims. She's been branded as someone who endangered children, but what did she actually do? We still don't know. The family keeps telling us it's too terrible to talk about, too damaging to reveal, too explosive for television. But are they protecting the victims by staying quiet, or are they protecting themselves? So let's get down to the actual facts we have, because there's a massive disconnect between what the family is implying and what they've actually documented. And honestly, when you compare the two, things start to look really suspicious. The first concrete details we got about Meri's behavior came from the Brown family memoir, Becoming Sister Wives, published back in 2012. In that book, Meri didn't exactly come across as warm and fuzzy. She seemed controlling, she had tensions with the other wives, and her approach to discipline was clearly strict. But nothing in that memoir suggested she was putting children's lives in danger. It painted her as difficult and perhaps emotionally cold, but not as someone who was creating life-threatening situations. Then Christine's book came out more recently, and we finally got some specific incidents. Christine detailed how she didn't like the way Meri disciplined the kids. There was tension between them over parenting styles. And then Christine shared the pivotal store incident with Mykelti. Apparently, Meri got upset with Mykelti when the girl was trying to make a purchase and came up short on money. Meri yelled at her over it, and Christine was so disturbed by the incident that she severed her relationship with Meri entirely. Now, during the Pops Psych interview, Mykelti opened up a bit more. She talked about how she was often singled out by Meri and made an example of when it came to discipline. She shared a memory of being sent away from the dinner table without eating because she and some other kids were making faces at each other during a meal. Mykelti was punished with food deprivation while the other kids apparently weren't held to the same standard. Okay, so let's be clear. None of these things are good. Yelling at a kid for not having enough money at a store is terrible. Using food as punishment is absolutely not okay, and honestly, if that was a regular pattern, it could potentially rise to the level of child mistreatment. Singling out one child for harsher discipline than the others is damaging and unfair. These are legitimate grievances, and Mykelti has every right to be upset about how she was treated. But here's the problem. These specific examples don't match the language the family keeps using. Being sent to bed without dinner one time is not life-threatening. Getting yelled at in a store while humiliating and wrong doesn't require someone to swoop in and save your life. These are examples of strict, arguably emotionally abusive parenting. They're not examples of situations where children were in mortal danger. So why the disconnect? Why does Padron say the details would cancel the show? Why does the family keep using this language about saving lives if the actual documented incidents are about food punishment and public scolding? Either there are far more serious incidents that nobody is sharing, or the family is dramatically exaggerating the severity of what happened. And if they're exaggerating, we need to ask why. What purpose does it serve to make Meri sound like a monster? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Money. Specifically, TLC money. Because Christine and Janelle Brown have a massive financial incentive to keep certain details about Meri under wraps. And we need to be real about what's at stake here. Sister Wives isn't just a fun side project for Christine and Janelle anymore. It's their primary income source. It's how they're paying their bills, funding their lifestyles, and securing their futures. Christine is living her best life with her new husband, David Woolley, traveling and enjoying her post-polygamy freedom. Janelle is doing her own thing, investing in property and maintaining her independence. And all of that costs money. Money that comes from TLC continuing to write them checks season after season. Here's the harsh reality. If truly devastating details came out about what happened to these kids under Meri's care, details so serious they genuinely involved life-threatening situations, TLC would have no choice but to pull the plug on Sister Wives. The network cannot continue airing a family reality show if it turns out there was serious child endangerment happening and the mothers knew about it but chose to stay in the situation anyway. That's not just bad publicity, that's potential legal liability. That's advertisers running for the hills. That's the show getting canceled immediately. And that raises a really uncomfortable question. Are Christine and Janelle deliberately keeping the most damaging information quiet to protect their contracts? Because think about what Padron said. He specifically stated he couldn't share details because it might get the show canceled. Not because it would traumatize the victims, not because it's too personal, but because it would end Sister Wives. That statement right there tells you everything you need to know about where the family's priorities lie. Sources close to the situation suggest there might be pressure within the family to keep certain stories vague. Insiders whisper that the adult Brown children have been coached on what they can and cannot say publicly. And when you look at the pattern, it makes sense. Everyone uses the same dramatic language, everyone hints at something terrible, but nobody actually gives specifics. That level of consistency across multiple family members doesn't happen by accident. It happens when there's a coordinated effort to control the narrative. Christine and Janelle have positioned themselves as the brave truth-tellers who escaped Kody's manipulation and Robyn's toxicity. They've built their post-polygamy brands on being honest and authentic. But when it comes to Meri, suddenly they're incredibly protective of information. They'll trash Kody and Robyn all day long because that doesn't threaten the show. In fact, it helps the show by creating drama and keeping viewers invested. But revealing truly horrific details about child mistreatment, that crosses a line that could cost them everything. So we have to ask the hard question. Are Christine and Janelle protecting their children by respecting their privacy and letting them control their own stories? Or are they protecting their TLC paychecks by making sure nothing comes out that would force the network to cancel the show? Let's dive into the moral nightmare that Christine and Janelle might be facing right now, because if they know about genuinely life-threatening situations that happen to their children and they're keeping those details hidden to protect a television show, that's not just questionable. That's a betrayal of the most fundamental responsibility a mother has. Think about what we're talking about here. If the accusations against Meri are as serious as the family implies, if children's lives were genuinely at risk, if Robyn really did have to step in and save kids from dangerous situations, then Christine and Janelle were there. They knew what was happening. They were witnesses to whatever went down. And if they chose to stay in that plural marriage setup to keep their kids in that environment, to not go to authorities or remove their children from harm's way, that makes them complicit. But here's where it gets even darker. Let's say for a moment that truly terrible things happened, and Christine and Janelle are now sitting on that information. They're making the calculated decision not to share specifics publicly, because doing so would tank sister wives and destroy their income. That means they're prioritizing money over truth. They're prioritizing their comfortable lifestyles over justice and accountability. They're putting their financial security above giving their adult children the freedom to fully share their stories. Word on the street suggests that some of the Brown kids are frustrated with the limitations they're facing when it comes to speaking out. Reports are surfacing that certain family members want to be more open about what they experienced, but they're being asked to hold back for the sake of the show. If that's true, if Christine and Janelle are the ones applying that pressure, either directly or indirectly, that's a massive problem. Because here's the thing, these aren't little kids anymore. Mykelti, Madison, Padron, they're all adults now. They have the right to tell their own stories without being censored or managed by their mothers. And if Christine and Janelle are influencing what gets shared publicly because they're worried about losing their TLC contracts, that's manipulative. That's putting their own interests above their children's healing and closure. Let's also talk about the message this sends. Christine has built her entire post-Kody brand on being the wife who finally found the courage to leave. She's written a book. She's done interviews. She's positioned herself as someone who chose herself and her kids over staying in a toxic situation. But if she's now prioritizing television money over full transparency about what her kids endured, that completely undermines her narrative. It makes her look like someone who's willing to compromise her values when there's a paycheck involved. The same goes for Janelle. She's presented herself as the practical, no-nonsense mom who always put her kids first. But if she's sitting on information about child endangerment and choosing not to speak up because it might cost her financially, that's not putting kids first. That's putting money first. And there's no way to spin that into something noble or protective. Now let's talk about the other massive problem with this whole situation, Robyn Brown. Because isn't it incredibly convenient that in the middle of all these vague accusations about Meri, Robyn somehow emerges as the hero who saved children's lives? Rumor has it this narrative serves a very specific purpose, and it's not just about protecting kids. Think about the timing and the framing here. For years, Robyn has been painted as the villain of Sister Wives. She's the favorite wife who stole Kody's attention. She's the manipulator who drove wedges between the family. She's the one who got the big house while the other wives struggled. Her reputation with viewers has been absolutely terrible, and she knows it. But suddenly we're hearing whispers that Robyn was actually the savior. She was the one who stepped in and protected Kody's children from Meri's alleged abuse. She was the maternal figure who rescued vulnerable kids from dangerous situations. Sources close to the situation suggest this narrative didn't emerge by accident. Palace insiders whisper that Robyn's role as the protective mother figure has been carefully cultivated to counterbalance all the negativity she's faced. And honestly, what better way to rehabilitate your image than to position yourself as someone who literally saved children's lives? You can't argue with that. You can't criticize someone who was protecting innocent kids, right? But here's where things get suspicious. If Robyn really did intervene in life-threatening situations involving Meri and the Brown children, why aren't we getting specifics about that either? Why isn't anyone explaining exactly what Robyn did to save these kids? What actions did she take? Did she go to Kody? Did she confront Meri? Did she remove children from dangerous situations? The details would actually make her look like a hero. So why the silence? Unless, of course, the reality is far less dramatic than the language suggests. Unless Robyn's saving of the kids was actually just being a decent stepmother who showed them kindness and gave them emotional support. That's admirable, absolutely. But it's not the same as rescuing children from life-threatening abuse. It's possible that the vague language is intentional because the truth wouldn't actually make Robyn look as heroic as the implications suggest. According to reports, Mykelti specifically talked about how Robyn gave her a mother figure to talk to, someone she could trust when she was struggling. That's beautiful. That's what a good step-parent should do. But notice how that's very different from the language about saving lives. Mykelti's actual description of what Robyn did for her is about emotional support and connection, not rescuing her from mortal danger. So why does the family keep using this life-saving language when the documented reality seems to be about emotional support? Industry insiders suggest it's because the dramatic framing serves multiple purposes. It makes Meri look worse, it makes Robyn look better, and it creates enough mystery and drama to keep Sister Wives interesting without actually revealing anything that would get the show canceled. Everyone wins except Meri, who gets blamed for atrocities that may or may not have happened. Let's talk about the absolutely glaring hypocrisy happening right now, because Christine and Janelle have built their entire post-polygamy reputations on being truth tellers. They're the brave ones who left. They're the honest ones who speak up. They're the authentic ones who don't play games. But when you actually look at their behavior, there's a massive double standard at play, and it's getting harder to ignore. Christine has been brutally honest about Kody. She's talked about how he neglected her emotionally. She's shared details about their struggling marriage. She's been open about how painful it was to watch him prioritize Robyn over everyone else. She wrote an entire book detailing the dysfunction of her plural marriage. She's given interviews where she's pulled no punches about Kody's behavior and how it affected her and the kids. Nothing has been off limits when it comes to criticizing Kody. Janelle has been the same way. She's talked openly about how Kody essentially abandoned his relationship with her. She's discussed the financial inequities in the family. She's been candid about her frustrations with how resources were distributed. She's made it clear that Kody failed as a husband and father to her children. She doesn't hold back when the topic is Kody's failures. And Robyn? Oh, they've had plenty to say about Robyn too. The favoritism, the manipulation, the way she positioned herself as the legal wife, the massive house while everyone else struggled. Christine and Janelle have been more than willing to air grievances about Robyn's role in destroying their family. They've given fans all the tea about how Robyn operated and how it impacted the family dynamic. But when it comes to Meri and these supposedly life-threatening situations, suddenly Christine and Janelle become incredibly vague. Suddenly it's all whispers and implications instead of concrete details. Suddenly they're respecting privacy and protecting the narrative and making sure not to say too much. The transparency disappears. The brutal honesty evaporates. They'll drag Kody and Robyn through the mud all day long, but when it comes to backing up serious accusations against Meri, they go silent. The buzz in reality television circles is that this selective honesty isn't accidental. Behind closed doors, people are saying Christine and Janelle know exactly what they're doing. They can trash Kody and Robyn because that drama helps Sister Wives. It creates compelling television. It gives viewers someone to root against. It keeps the show interesting and the ratings strong, but revealing genuinely disturbing details about child mistreatment, that's different. That crosses into territory that could get the show canceled and cost them everything. So they found this perfect middle ground. They make vague accusations that destroy Meri's reputation and create mystery for viewers, but they never give enough detail to actually threaten the show's existence. It's strategic, it's calculated, and honestly, it's starting to look like the transparency Christine and Janelle claim to value only applies when it's convenient for them. When the truth might cost them their TLC paychecks, suddenly honesty isn't quite as important anymore. Now let's talk about what this situation is doing to Meri Brown, because regardless of what actually happened, the way this family is handling these accusations is absolutely destroying her. And honestly, even if Meri was genuinely problematic as a parent, she deserves to know exactly what she's being accused of. That's basic fairness. Meri's reputation has been obliterated by these vague claims. In the court of public opinion, she's been convicted of being someone who created life-threatening situations for children. Viewers have been told she's so dangerous that kids needed to be saved from her. The implication is that she's guilty of serious abuse or neglect, the kind of stuff that could have resulted in children dying. That's the picture the family has painted, and Meri has had to live with that hanging over her head for years now. But here's the thing, she's never been given the opportunity to actually defend herself against specific accusations. How do you defend yourself when nobody will tell you exactly what you're being accused of? How do you respond when the charges are just vague whispers about saving lives and show-canceling secrets? Meri can't address specific incidents if the family won't name them. She can't apologize for particular actions if nobody will say what those actions were. She can't even begin to make amends because she's shadowboxing against accusations that remain deliberately unclear. Sources close to Meri suggest she's been devastated by the way her former sister wives and stepchildren have handled this situation. Insiders claim she's expressed frustration about being villainized without being given a fair chance to respond. Word on the street is that Meri has actually tried to have conversations with some of the family members to understand what specifically she did wrong, but she's been shut down. The family doesn't want dialogue, they want to maintain the mystery. And let's be honest about something else. The psychological toll of being accused of near homicidal behavior without concrete details has to be absolutely crushing. Imagine living with the knowledge that millions of people think you almost killed children, but nobody will actually tell you or anyone else what you supposedly did. That's a special kind of torture. It's character assassination without the accused even knowing what the murder weapon was. Even if Meri was a harsh, controlling, emotionally abusive parental figure, even if she did use food as punishment and single out certain kids for harsher treatment, she still deserves to know the full extent of what she's being blamed for. Because right now, the gap between what's been documented and what's been implied is so massive that Meri is essentially being blamed for things that may not have even happened. The family's vague language allows people to imagine the absolute worst, and Meri gets saddled with accusations that might be far more severe than the reality. Reports are surfacing that Meri feels like she's been made into a scapegoat for all the family's dysfunction. Behind closed doors, people are saying she believes Christine and Janelle are using her as a convenient villain to distract from their own parenting failures and choices. The Sister Wives fan base isn't buying what Christine and Janelle are selling anymore, and honestly, the backlash is getting louder by the day. Social media is absolutely exploding with theories about what's really going on, and a lot of fans are starting to question whether these two mothers are protecting their kids or protecting their bank accounts. Scroll through any Sister Wives discussion forum right now, and you'll see the same sentiments repeated over and over. Fans are calling out the convenient vagueness. They're pointing out how suspicious it is that nobody will provide actual details. They're connecting the dots between Padron's comment about not being able to share because it would cancel the show and the financial incentive Christine and Janelle have to keep the show running. The audience isn't stupid, they can see what's happening. One popular theory circulating in royal gossip circles is that the so-called life-threatening situations were actually just standard strict parenting that's being dramatically reframed for television purposes. According to this theory, Meri was harsh and emotionally cold, sure, but the family is exaggerating the severity because it creates better drama for Sister Wives. The mystery keeps people watching. The vague accusations keep people talking. And as long as nobody provides receipts, the speculation can continue indefinitely without actually threatening the show's existence. Another theory gaining traction suggests that Christine and Janelle are deliberately keeping things vague because the actual receipts aren't nearly as damning as they want people to believe. Whispers from Hollywood indicate that if they had truly explosive evidence of dangerous abuse, they would have gone to authorities years ago. The fact that no legal action was ever taken, no CPS investigations happened, no police reports were filed, that tells fans everything they need to know. If kids were genuinely in mortal danger, there would be a paper trail, there would be official documentation, there would be something beyond just family members making cryptic statements years later. Social media reactions have been absolutely brutal. One viral tweet said, "Christine will write a whole book dragging Kody but won't give us one specific example of Meri's life-threatening behavior. Make it make sense." Another popular post pointed out, funny how the receipts only stay hidden when revealing them would cost Christine and Janelle their TLC money. The fan base is connecting dots that the family probably wishes would stay disconnected. Some viewers are even starting to defend Meri, arguing that she's been unfairly demonized by a family that benefits from having a villain. These fans point out that Meri was a young woman trapped in a fundamentalist religion, married to a man who openly preferred other wives, and dealing with infertility trauma while watching her husband have babies with 3 other women. They argue that yes, she was probably difficult and controlling, but that doesn't make her a child abuser. character. And without specific evidence, the family shouldn't be allowed to destroy her reputation. The buzz in online communities is that this situation has actually hurt Christine and Janelle's credibility with a significant portion of the fan base. People who used to see them as the heroes of the sister-wives story are now questioning their motives and their integrity. So here's where we're at. Christine Brown and Janelle Brown need to make a choice, and they need to make it soon. Either provide the receipts that justify these devastating accusations against Meri, or admit that they've been exaggerating the severity of what happened, because this middle ground they're living in right now, where they destroy someone's reputation with vague implications while protecting their TLC paychecks, that's not sustainable. And honestly, it's not ethical. If the allegations being made are as serious as the language suggests, then transparency becomes important for everyone involved. The question becomes whether the vague nature of these claims serves anyone's best interests, including those making the accusations. When serious allegations remain unsubstantiated publicly, it creates a situation where no one can properly address what happened or move forward constructively. The families involved deserve clarity, and viewers deserve to understand the full context of what they're watching unfold on their screens. But if the reality is that Meri was just a strict, emotionally cold parental figure who used questionable discipline methods, if the actual incidents don't rise to the level of life-threatening danger, then Christine and Janelle need to stop using language that implies otherwise. They need to stop letting their kids make vague accusations that allow viewers to imagine the worst. They need to stop hiding behind the excuse of protecting privacy when what they're really protecting is their income stream. The Sister Wives audience deserves honesty. Meri deserves to know exactly what she's being accused of, and Christine and Janelle's children deserve the freedom to tell their full stories without being managed and censored to protect a television show, because right now it's looking more and more like the only thing being protected is Christine and Janelle's ability to keep cashing TLC checks. Sources close to the production suggest that behind the scenes, there's growing pressure for more transparency. The buzz in entertainment industry circles is that viewers are getting tired of the strategic vagueness and demanding either proof or retractions. And honestly, that pressure is justified. When serious allegations are made publicly, there's generally an expectation that they're backed by specific information that allows for proper context and response. Without that specificity, it becomes difficult for anyone to address the situation properly or for healing to occur. The contrast between how openly Christine and Janelle discuss some family issues versus their vagueness about others has created questions among viewers. As they continue building their post-polygamy lives and public personas, the question remains whether full transparency will eventually come, or if some details will remain permanently behind closed doors, for reasons we may never fully understand. Because at the end of the day, we're all watching. And the question that matters most is this: are you protecting your children's truth, or are you protecting your TLC paychecks? Drop your thoughts below. Do you think Christine and Janelle are hiding the real story to protect the show? Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you won't believe what's coming next.